Good afternoon and hello, everyone. I am delighted to be here to commemorate and talk about Quilting Sisters of Color. This is an artist talk put on by TAC, which is TRAC's African American Committee. I am Teretha West. I am the co-chair of the committee, and I'm also the chair and co-chair of the Visual Arts Committee that puts together this exhibit. And we are so excited to put this virtual talk on, where this is also a feature and a program of TAC's 20th anniversary regional celebration of African American artists exhibit. And the name of our exhibit is The Fabric of Our Lives. Fabrics and fibers are the medium of TAC's 2021 and 2022 exhibits. And in 2021, the emphasis was on artistic expression. This year, the focus is on the historical, cultural, and heritage stories behind the fabrics and fiber items. Today, the Quilting Sisters of Color are going to be telling us the stories behind their quilts. We will talk with their founder. We will also talk with their immediate past president. But the quilts and their stories focus on family, church, and community. So I am going to turn it over to Miss Sharon Leach, and she is going to tell us a little bit about the Quilting Sisters of Color, their beginnings, how they were founded, and a little bit about their celebration and their 25th anniversary quilt that they have on display at the exhibit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Leach, and I've had the honor and privilege of serving the Quilting Sisters of Color as president for the last 2 years. My term ended this past weekend, and our new president, you'll hear from her in a few minutes, Merrill Smith. But we have also had the honor and privilege of participating in the exhibit that you've provided over the past couple of years. Several ladies sent quilts, full-size quilts last year. I was able to make a couple of contributions as well. And our association was pretty much facilitated by Joyce Walters. I keep forgetting what her connection is to Texarkana, but she worked with Dr. Harper and physically carried all of our quilts there, and then she drove back down there and picked them up. We were honored to be asked to participate again. And several women have sent pieces this year as well. I've been a member of the Quilting Sisters for over 20 years, probably somewhere around 23 years. And I was invited and inspired to join this quilting community by our founder, Jean Johnson. And you're going to hear a little bit from Jean in a few minutes. We also are celebrating, or have celebrated and will continue to celebrate 25 years of existence as a guild founded by Miss Jean Johnson. And Merrill Smith will talk a little bit about our presentation to Jean as founder of the guild. She designed a quilt which we all participated in making. I guess I'll turn it over to Merrill to talk about our quilt presentation to Jean.
All right, thank you so much, Sharon. I really do appreciate you introducing me, and I thank everybody for being here. The main portion that I'd like to share with you is that because of Jean's commitment to quilting and her very present personality within our group and being our founder, when Sharon asked me to help her with coming up with a quilt for Jean, I was just delighted. One of the things that I did to try to get inspiration for the quilt was I asked Jean who founded the group. I already knew who founded the group, but this was my little ploy to get the answer to another question. She said, well, I did. I said, oh, I said, well, why did you do it? And she said, because I saw a need. So the name of this quilt is She Saw a Need. The main inspiration for us as a group, it has been Jean in terms of her inspiring our creativity. And it is an inspiration, and love, and then community. And those are the blocks at the top that have been embroidered, those words: creativity, inspiration, love, and community. And we cannot say more about that. Each one of these blocks was created by the participating members within our group, and from what we call stash fabric. And stash fabric is just your leftovers. It's not something that you would put in a quilt to showcase your work, but it also shows the individual people that are in our group. So from the stash, Jean was able to tell who was doing what. When I was coming up with the design, our quilting sister Rita Anderson showed me an embroidery, and each one of these women that are in the center represent all of us, because we are quilting sisters of color. So the complexions are different, but the also the fabrics that they're wearing in their head and the embroidery within their faces represents us as a group. We are not a homogenized person or oneness, but we are a unit. So that's why they are in the center, because we are together, and they are reflecting what I thought was a prayer, because we are always praying not only for each other, but the world, the community. We are founded within what God has given us in terms of our creativity. So when we did present the quilt to Jean, she'll have to tell you the rest of that story, but it was a lot of fun, and we kept it a secret. She was very much surprised.
Yes.
Awesome. What a beautiful story behind the quilt. And Jean, could you tell us a little bit more about the founding, and also a little bit about how this quilt came about? You had some great stories, and we tell the group if you would.
Okay, well, like I said, I started quilting in 1989, and after taking a lot of quilt classes and being at Concord, I was in charge of a certain part of the gifts of the spirit, and I noticed that there wasn't anybody else quilting of any African American ladies. It was all new to them too. So I took one quilt class after the other. You know, I went to just about every quilt shop in Dallas. I, just continued to take quilting classes, and I was getting better and better. My skills were getting better. And I noticed that going around all the quilt shops, I didn't see any African American ladies. And when I go in there, they would, give me that look like, what you're up to. And, I was like a stranger. And I'd go to the quilt guilds and, and notice there was any in there, maybe one or two, maybe I would see. And so I thought, we could start our own quilt guild, just like, they do. So that's what I did. I got together and called up some people, and we started our own quilt guild, basically. And we started meeting at the DeSoto Town Center, and I think we were at a church one time, and we just kind of hopped around town. And then finally Concord Baptist Church, that I'm a member of, gave us a spot there, and that we meet there every fourth Saturday eventually. And so we meet there, we pass out pattern, we share patterns and information, and we go to quilt guilds, and we go to, we go on retreats. We bring back our work at every month, and show and tell is the biggest part of our day. We have lunch, and it's just been a joy for the last 25 years. So, it's been fantastic just to share and enjoy all the fruits of, our big endeavor for the last 25 years. So that's how we've gotten started. And we've all learned a lot. I've learned a lot from them, as well. Being a nurse, I have that thing in me of giving. And so I kind of reach back and get that and just to learn and to share with them what I've learned and what they've learned, they share with me. So it's a good thing. And so we've all learned and enjoyed each other. And the quilt is just absolutely gorgeous. I, just can't help but to smile every time I think about it, but, because I don't think anyone has ever given me a quilt. I've given out a lot, but I've never gotten one. And we all know what it is to give a quilt and the joy that it is. But I've never received a quilt. And I was just sitting here thinking, and when they brought it over, I was just amazed because I made a block too, because we were supposed to make a block and then they was going to get it completed and have it hang somewhere. And I'm thinking, where are they going to hang it at? But I thought, well, they'll figure it out. And then they showed up over here, and Sharon was under the pretense of needing me to help her with some project. I'm thinking, Sharon is such an excellent quilter. What would she need me to help her with? So I said, oh, okay, come on over. And so she shows up and she's got 3 people with her, and they all came in with this big box. And I opened it up and it was the quilt. And I was just floored. And, to look at it is so gorgeous, and Rita did the embroidery work and Tina did the label and Merrill did the design work. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I kept saying, but you were supposed to hang it someplace. And they said, well, we're going to hang it here. And I'm thinking, why? Why are you going to give it to me? So it is just absolutely gorgeous. And I can't wait to get it back so I can hang it in my house and enjoy it. So it's just gorgeous. So thank you for letting me share that story.
Thank you, Jean. This was an amazing story, and it really seems to tell the story of the categories that we put these different quilts in for this exhibit. And our categories again are family, church, school, and community. But at this time, I'm going to move into talking with the different quilters that are part of the Quilting Sisters of Color that will be telling us a little bit behind the stories, the reasons behind them producing and making the quilts that we will see. First up that we will be talking with is Charlene Lee. And Charlene,
Hi.
If you would give us a second to get your quilt up, and then you can go ahead and get started. We want them to see your beautiful quilts and tell us a little bit about it.
Hello, everyone. Like I said, my quilt, I call it a story quilt. What inspired me about the quilt is I'm part of a traveling book club of African-American ladies that we go around to historically Black history locations and do Black history tours. And in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were scheduled to go to Tulsa. And so I was tasked with coming up with something for the ladies that we usually raffle off an item and the money goes to a nonprofit organization that we choose. And so Tulsa, I did a little research and had read many things about Black Wall Street and the things that happened there. And so we came up with an agenda of the various places we were going. Usually the second weekend in June, they have a Black Cities tour. There are a number of Black cities, Black towns in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that were established right after slavery. And one of the ladies in the group is an author, and she wrote about these Black towns in her book. So that's why you see the Oklahoma with the Black towns that are located, the map there. We were also going to visit Black Wall Street, and I wanted to give them a little history about the number of businesses that were in Black Wall Street prior to the riot. And then there's the emblem of Black Wall Street, their logo, and the different places that we were going to visit, their city center and that type of thing. So that's where I came up with the idea of coming up with something that one of the ladies could take home with them to commemorate our trip to Tulsa, which never happened as a result of the pandemic. So that's why I still have the items there with me. And at the back side, what you can't see is Indian baskets, because we are in Indian territory in Oklahoma. And so I did fabric on the back that the Indian territory, and then the border is some African material.
Awesome. That is a fabulous story. And when we get to the question and answer period at the end, we'll probably ask you a few more questions. I hope that you're still around so that we can talk more about the Black Wall Street quilt and what it means to the African-American community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have Miss Merrill Smith, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her quilts, Dear Uncle.
All right.
So
Yes, I'm sorry.
Merrill.
All right. Thank you so very much, Ms. West. One of the things that quilters try not to do is to show you unfinished work. So when I saw that this exhibit said, well, it doesn't have to be finished, I said, well, the quilt that you're seeing is perfect because I started this quilt in 2004 and I have been trying to finish it since then. And I named this quilt Dear Uncle because I started the quilt when my uncle, who at the age of 4 or 5 named himself Popeye because he was the strongest man. And even as a child, he was very take charge. So, and I just called him Popeye, no uncle in the front because that was our relationship. But he was ill and dying of cancer. He had prostate cancer. And so I brought the fabric that you see. They were just some of the stuff that I had in my stash. And it was just going to pass the time as, you know, I was there with his daughter, his only child, to be with him during that time. But one of the things that I saw with him is that during his stay in the hospital, he was always showing empathy towards everyone that would come in. So the young nurses aide, he would ask her, what are your plans? You should go on to, you know, nursing school. You should be more. Don't just look at this as your current status. Even in his suffering, he just wanted to make sure everybody knew. And even to the nurse, why don't you think about being a doctor, and on it went. But one of the things that I want to add that I did not include in the overall synopsis of this quilt is that when he was a young man, he was brilliant, wanted to go to medical school. But because of the complexion of his skin, he went to Xavier University, college at that time in Louisiana, which is a Catholic college. He was not able to go from Xavier to the medical schools in the North because of the complexion of his skin. So he had to defer that dream of becoming a doctor. So for me, this quilt shows the spilling out of what the gut of quilting is about. Sometimes we make quilts and we think that we're passing the time. I don't think that I'm really going to ever finish the quilt because I saw his life as not completed, in that he is still inspiring people because many people became doctors and scientists and lawyers and instructors because he became a teacher. So sometimes the dreams that we have are not necessarily the ones that God has fulfilled in our lives, but maybe fulfilled in other people's lives. So you see that inner workings. You see the top and then the inner workings, and then there's the back of the quilt, but the guts of it all is just filling out. So I really appreciate being able to talk about that. So, dear uncle, he was cool. He was cool.
That is so awesome. A work in progress. I love it.
And this quilt is for my daughter, who is now, and she says, Mama, stop telling my age, but I'm going to tell it anyway, 35 years old. So the Dallas Quilt Guild had a children's entry where it was not judged. And so she and I worked on it together. So the fabrics are all put on, you know, by her little hand stitching, and then I quilted it. But this quilt has been an inspiration for her because it hung outside of her wall, her room. And now she is at Columbia University in New York City studying film. So from small beginnings came big dreams. And each one of these particular blocks is a holiday. So it's called holidays. So Christmas, Halloween, Easter, and Valentine's.
Awesome.
My godmother inspired this quilt. She was told at some point she had weeks to live, and she outlived her doctor that told her that, her cousin, her sister, my uncle that I've talked about before. She outlived them, and also 9 years past this terminal diagnosis. So for me, I just found that you just don't give up. You just keep on moving. And it was in a hurry. So if you look, it's not the best, but it may be the quickest because I thought I didn't have a lot of time. But that just goes to show you that time is not for us to manage. You do what you can and you enjoy the rest. Now, this is a surprise to me. This was a gift to Dr. Harper, and I was told, oh, I saw those little bags that you made, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Dr. Harper, I thought that would be in your bigger purse. So this is a surprise. But I did it because she and her sister were so dedicated in making this work for our community that I said, well, just give them a little something. So it is African fabric. I don't know whose bag is right now, but I'm sure they're going to work that out. But this is a surprise to me.
And they are absolutely lovely. And Dr. Harper couldn't wait to show us all of those persons. We were a little jealous, we'll say.
Oh, I see. Oh my goodness. Okay. I think
Okay.
that may be it.
Okay, awesome. Well, our next person up is Miss Rita Alma Anderson.
Miss West,
Yes.
Rita's having issues getting back on with her internet.
Okay, well, we'll move on to Angela Childs, and then I'll come back to Rita a little bit later to see if she's made it on.
Okay. Okay, hi, my name is Angela Childs. I call this quilt stripology boutiques. If you go in closely, each section of it is stripped with different size quilt strips.
Mhm.
It actually started when I always knew that I had a niece, even in my teenage years, from my older brother, but we never really connected. And back in around August or so, she showed up. And we brought her into the fold, into the family. By now I had about 16 of family member quilts finished and about 4 more to go.
Wow.
And in that time frame, I also had an accident and I couldn't use my hand. So I had to add her to the group somehow. And I also noticed when I spoke to her on the phone or on video, she's always in stripes. Everything was stripes and columns. Her home was decorated in stripes and columns. So when I saw that, I thought this design would work for her.
Mm.
and she would appreciate it more. And they came out pretty good, I think.
Yes.
This is quite awesome. You know, is there any way that I can get on your family list? So that, I thought I'd try it.
You could try.
I tried. I was like, she's family members. You know, I can be an acting daughter just to get a quilt, you know.
Okay, and I do appreciate that you invited us and you're having us as a feature in the museum. I last year you used one of my quilts as one of the feature flyers, and that was the first quilting item I've ever had displayed publicly. So I really appreciate you boosting my ego.
Miss Childs, and you have fabulous work. I'm believing, is that the one that had the strips that was put together from New York?
Yes. Yes.
I remember it when I opened that quilt up. It was amazing. I was like, oh, this is awesome, and I just remember the story. If you could tell us a little bit about that story, say a little bit about it. I don't have that picture, by the way, but just tell us a little bit about that story. I thought it was an amazing story. It was an amazing story.
Yes, when I first joined the Guild, I noticed that a lot of the members would always talk about boutiques and fabric. And I was new to quilting as far as being involved in a organized group. I usually would just sew at home by myself. And I said to my sister that I was joining the Guild and could she go to the basement in New York, because I knew they had fabric basements, and pick me up some fabric. And I mentioned boutiques, and she sent me 2 big bags of boutique scraps. But as you can see, if you look at that picture, those were not scraps. Those were big, nice pieces. And I also didn't want to cut them up because then I would lose the beauty of the pattern and the quilt, the fabric and the print. So that's where I went into saying, okay, let's keep the pattern, keep the fabric print so that you could see the beauty of them. And then I named it New York Basement Quilt from Sherry.
But you know, I hope that we get a chance to see that quilt once again. But for those that don't remember or didn't see that quilt, it was just amazing to look at, and it really stimulated your eye. I mean, from a distance, you could really just see how it flowed, and it was. A lot of your quilts are directional, so I just really think you were spot on that one. Was that one of your first quilts, by the way, or second?
No. My first quilt was in 1984.
Oh, wow.
When I was pregnant for my second child, and I needed something to do after moving from Florida to El Paso with the military. And wow. I needed something to do. I'm not one to just sit around. So I went into the AP's sewing section, and I saw this pattern for the log cabin quilt. And I made that, and then I didn't make another one until 2012.
Wow. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your story, Angela. And we're going to move on to our next person. I want to see, is Miss Rita Alma Anderson on? Or are we, if she isn't, we can go ahead and move to Miss Harris. Well, Miss Harris, we're going to go ahead. Tina Harris, are you with us?
I am here with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. A lovely quilt. Please share.
Okay. Well, my name is Tina Harris, and I like to look at this quilt, and it was created several years ago, but I look at this quilt because it stands for a lot to me. In honor of Black history, I think it's most appropriate. My parents, James and Catherine Robinson, are actually from the Texarkana area, and I was born in Texarkana in Wadley Hospital. Yeah, and so long story short, my dad, when in high school, took carpentry classes, and my mom took home ec, and they both had a little bit of creativity. And over the years, as I grew up, I watched them create things. I watched my father build houses and build homes for my family and I watched my mom, dabble in sewing a little bit. She created my first house coat made out of Raggedy Ann and Andy. So I watched them piece together different materials from a very early age. And so by the time I went away to college, they sent me away to get an education. And they did not know that in my senior year, I spent most of my time borrowing a friend's sewing machine and learning how to quilt. So I've been quilting since the late 1980s. While my mom and dad were in Texarkana, my dad decided that he was going to continue to go to school in an all-Black setting, whereas my mother decided that she was going to be one of the first few people who was going to be integrated into the new school system. So if you look at the quilt, you'll see that it's both Black and white. So it's an integration of both the Black community and the white community that were brought together and had to learn how to live in a very different way. And it wasn't easy. It was fussy. It was busy, a lot like the quilt that you see displayed. And as far as with me, I wanted to create something that was going to be a part of my family, something that honored my parents, but also something that could be a legacy, be an heirloom that I could pass down to my children. And so when I created this, I created it with the hopes of it going to be in my home and remain in my home. But when I heard about this, because I'm probably one of the newer people with the Quilting Sisters of Color, I've only been here for a few years, I knew that, okay, although I wanted in my personal home, going and allowing this piece to go back to the home where I first came from, it seemed only appropriate. So this piece is called Paisleys and Posies. It symbolizes what happened in the past. It talks about what's happening in the present with my family. Also thinking about my husband who loves Paisley. I wanted to make sure that was represented, and it is. And it's for the future. So I don't have any daughters, but I have 2 sons, and I'll have to make another one. So that will be hanging in both of my children's homes one day. And hopefully they'll continue to pass this trade down or pass this quilt down so it can be an inspiration. And the story can also be something that they can hold on to for the rest of their lives and also for their children's lives. So that's it.
Mm.
Oh, Tina, that was a fabulous story. I did not realize the history and the background behind that quilt. And, I live in Texarkana, so that was just wonderful to hear. I hope that the group out there really takes that to heart and sees, your inspiration was Texarkana. And just seeing that within the quilt, it is a beautiful quilt. I remember opening up the quilt and thinking, wow, is this a quilt? Because it almost looked like a picture because it was fabulously pieced together. You did an awesome job, but with you telling us that story, I had no idea that much was behind that quilt. So thank you for sharing. And we're going to move on to our next person or quilter, and it is Rita Alma Anderson. I'm not sure if she's on or ready for us yet. Rita,
No,
are you? She isn't?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and move to Joyce. Did Joyce join us?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Joyce.
I can't believe it. Congratulations to me for being able to get on.
We're excited. I hate I didn't get a chance to see you in person, but this is just as well virtually because I met you. I think the last time we had a exhibit, and
Yes.
I don't think we wanted to leave each other. We talked and talked and talked.
We had a very good time, and you guys were very nice and receptive and assistive, and I really appreciate it too, because it was a joy to see the exhibit and to be included.
Well, we are just excited to have you guys on for a virtual talk. And if you could just share just a moment with us about your quilt. I love this reunion quilt. Tell
Well,
us all.
this is my this is one of my favorite pieces because over 30 years ago, when my family decided to recreate the tradition of an annual reunion, I was invited to serve on the reunion committee and was very excited about that. And when the idea came up and the request for me to make a quilt, I kind of laughed about that because I thought, I don't remember how to make a quilt, but I'm going to try it. So I came up with the idea of including my grandmother's sisters, because when I met them, they had about 100 quilts and maybe 20 of them were unfinished. And so my aunt wanted to donate the quilts to me so that I'd have projects to finish and work on. I did finish them and I passed them on to my family members who coordinated the reunion every year. So this quilt includes t-shirts from various years and pictures of my grandmother's sisters, my great aunts, and my mother and my mother's brother and sister. So it holds a special memory for the family, and I take it to every family reunion. We used to donate one of the quilts, but I haven't donated this one because I've kept it as my favorite. So I hope you like it.
Love it, Joyce. It is absolutely beautiful. And I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, I might know Joyce, from somewhere else.
Yes. I'm actually from Camden. And what Tina didn't tell you is that she and I are cousins.
Awesome. Wow. That is great stuff. When we pick these categories of family, church, school, and community, we had no idea, how tightly woven all of these different categories are and what they mean to us, and how we tell stories through quilts within these categories. Well, moving on, I want to make sure we hear from all the quilters. Has Rita Alma Anderson been able to show up? Is she?
No, she hasn't. I sent her.
See her work?
Yes, we can go ahead and can someone speak to her work if we go ahead and put her work up?
I can't really speak to it. I just wanted it viewed.
Oh.
I really don't know her individual stories on these quilts, but she does awesome work. And I thought it would be nice just to see it.
Yes, most definitely. And I know that Dr. Harper is on, and Dr. Harper, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you happen to have the stories handy of Alma Rita Anderson's quilts by any chance? I'm not hearing from Dr. Harper at this time, but we're going to go ahead and continue. I think there was just, maybe, was it 3 or 4? Did we get all the pictures, Chris? Is there one more? Of Alma's quilts. The detail is fabulous. I love the piecing.
Oh, they're beautiful.
They're awesome. Now, you guys may be able to tell me now, does she typically work more of a wall tapestry size, or does she do larger quilts? I know that's what we asked for in this particular exhibit, but are you aware if Ms. Anderson does?
She normally does larger quilts, and she loves batiks. She does a lot of gorgeous batik quilts.
Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you, Jean, for giving us some insight into her work.
And
technique.
Most of her quilts, from my remembrance, have an ethnic theme to them. Also, it's either Black or African in theme.
Yes.
And Rita was the one that actually embroidered those 4 blocks in the center of our 25th anniversary quilt, and it was her inspiration. Well, she inspired me by showing me her work. And so she's a fabulous, not only quilter, but embroiderer, where she takes and makes it her own. So,
Yeah, I noticed the embroidery in her work. So she does all of that on her own. That's awesome. And I'm glad you pointed that out in the 25th anniversary quilt, that she did the actual pieces of, I guess, the women that were praying. Is that the
correct?
speaking? That's, you know, great to see how you all put all of your skills together to come up with such a beautiful quilt. Well, we're coming to the close, and I have a question for the ladies, and anyone can answer it. You know, you're talking about your guild, and I want to make sure that we understood how many people are in your quilting guild.
Around 42.
Wow. I thought you were going to say maybe 10 or 15, 42 women of different backgrounds and women of color coming together in quilting. That is awesome. Do you see your guild growing, or are you guys about where you think you're going to be at about 42?
Well, it really is amazing. Over the past couple of years, we, of course, could not meet in person, and we met on Zoom, and our group actually grew in size over the course of our Zoom meetings. So we have yet to see what we will be when we start meeting in person again, but we've grown quite a bit.
Yeah, hopefully we'll start meeting maybe in the fall. That maybe looks like that.
And if someone wants to be a part of this guild, do you guys, you know, kind of, you know, look at their membership and see if they can be a part of it, or are you kind of, you guys kind of work together, and the more the merrier? What kind of process do you all use to get people to be a member of your guild? I'm just curious.
Anybody is welcome. We have every level of quilter in our group, and you know, our unstated motto really is kind of each one teach one. We all learn from each other, and we've got baby quilters as well as very experienced quilters, and we're always looking for younger people to join our group. Not that we are old or anything, but it's just nice. It's nice to have you know, fresh ideas and fresh meat in the group.
And the other thing within our group, we have award-winning quilters who have
we do.
Different quilt guilds, quilt shows will have judged quilt, and so we have a lot of people that have done that.
Well, it is exciting. It looks like you guys are well bonded, just the, you know, few ladies that we have on today, but I had no idea your guild was that large. But, you know, it makes me want to get out there and quilt and want to be a part. You know, I can't sew, but I really love the looks of quilts, and I think I can do it. Do you have any encouragement out there?
Oh yeah.
And I want to. I've been trying to talk to Dr. Harper to get her to get me in order, and maybe I can try it. Maybe I can do it, because I'm an artist by trade. I'm just not a quilter, and I do sew by hand, but I've never, you know, been able to master the machine. But you know, the work that you guys have is absolutely fabulous. And do you guys have anything that you want to impart to anyone out there that is, you know, starting or beginning to quilt?
Well, you know, it's just like walking. You have to start with one step. All that you see is based on a commitment to keep on going. And that's the whole theme of what Jean said. She saw a need in terms of what a group of women can do, because in her beginning, and I'm not speaking for Jean, but I'm just saying we all started from the very smallest. And so it's like those threads that are around that quilt to remind us that we are connected. So that's it. So you never make a quilt that is too bad You never make a quilt that is too fabulous, because it's not about the quality, but the fabric and the threads that hold it together.
Mhm.
And I was looking in the chat just to make sure that there weren't any questions out there, because we're just that portion of the question and answer period. And Chris, you can chime in at any point. I tried to look in the chat, but I did not see any additional questions. But at this point, if we can open up, and if anyone has a question that they'd like, a burning question that they'd like to ask, but we have a little bit of time before we end today. Chris, do you have any questions out there, or is there anyone that may have a burning question?
I'm not seeing anyone currently in the chat that has any questions, but I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you all for sharing. This has been really great, and these stories are amazing. And as the person who's been hanging them and working with them, it's been even more fulfilling to get your words on it. Because I've seen them for a while now, and I can see them and look at them and read the stories myself, but getting it from the actual artists is always a treat. So I just want to say thanks.
Yeah.
And Chris, would you please tell us the capacity that you hold at TRAC? I'm sorry, I did not introduce you beforehand. You've been behind the scenes making this all work. Would you please just give us a little bit about yourself so that everyone understands who you are and why you're back there
Right,
making it
right.
all work? You put it together for us.
I'm the visual arts coordinator here at TRAC. I'm in charge of exhibits, some events, some classes. Anything that you really see on the walls is really my purview. And so, like I was saying a second ago, being able to work with this exhibit and hang it and just go through all those steps has been really, really nice. So, yeah.
And I also I would be remiss if I did not let everyone know that Dr. Harper, and I wanted to talk about my committee, the committee that puts together the regional celebration of African-American artists exhibits. And my committee is, and she's my co-chair, she is the person that we stay up many nights and does so much work behind the scenes, and that is Dr. Teretha Harper. And I don't know if Dr. Harper would want to say a few words, but she is fabulous. She's a joy to work with. And we're constantly working to bring, quilts and exhibits like this to the community so that they can have the opportunity to see and meet the artist behind them. So Dr. Harper, if you have a few words, if you would, you can speak at this point.
Okay, I'll try to make this work.
Yes, ma'am.
The first thing is that I want to say thank you to the Quilting Sisters of Color for working with us for 2 years now. Your magnificent quilts have truly brought a new concept of quilting and use of arts to the Texarkana community. When I talk to people and they walk into the art center, many times they think it's a large painting on the wall until they know that it's a quilt. The messages are most important because it keeps our history in the forefront. It reminds us of the past, our ancestors, and for the children, it teaches them more about their families and what people can do with just a little bit of time, not much money. The quilts can be small. They don't have to be large size. It can be small. And when I thought about it last night, after this pandemic, we all need to find some way to help our mental health. And this quilting is a way in which you can do it solo, if that's your preference, or you can do it with a group, which I think is very, very important, like the Quilting Sisters of Color. So thank you for bringing your wonderful work to the Texarkana area. And we're going to look for more ways to work with this group. We don't know yet, but we're going to look for more ways to work with the Quilting Sisters of Color Dallas, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us over these past 2 years.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate the offer.
Thank you.
And it has been a delight to work with you all. And at this time, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to make sure that everyone is safe out there and that we will see you again next year and for our next exhibit. But if you guys happen to come into Texarkana, or if you're near Texarkana, please stop by exhibit. It closes on March 12th. Again, our exhibit, The Fabric of Our Lives. And we are just delighted to have all of you all. And, you know, if there are any questions or if you want any information, you can call TRAC. But the hours are, I think they're open, are from Wednesday to Saturday from 10 to 4. And Chris, you can correct me if I'm
Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4. So before the exhibit closes on March 12th, I encourage you to stop by. It is, you know, even better to see it in person. But thank you all, and everyone have a good rest of your day.
There is
Thank
one
you.
quick question, actually.
Oh, there is the question. Oh, we
There's
don't.
one question. Just as a wrap it up kind of question. Some person asked, Natasha Chambliss asks, what is the best way for us to continue to support the work happening here? And I thought that would be a good wrap up question for the Guild. How can we support y'all?
You mean TRAC or the Quilting Sisters?
The Quilting Sisters is what I was referring to.
Oh, I don't know. Just stop by and see us when they're in town.
Triva gives a quick connection. Natalie is my niece in Atlanta, Georgia, and she has an art gallery.
Oh,
So I'm going to call her as soon as this program is over.
Mhm.
she can,
Connections. We never know.
she can
Never know.
continue to encourage this form of art by making a quilt.
Mhm,
Yes, that's a good idea.
mhm.
Awesome. And I'd love to have you guys back, and you know, maybe at some exhibits in the future, and also look at some workshops where you guys could come up and share a workshop, maybe in the summer, or when you have time to schedule a workshop to kind of get people to quilting and showing them some techniques and different things like that for beginner quilts, or, you know, maybe some advanced workshops for those, you know, advanced techniques that people might want to see. Sharing your craft and your skill is so, you know, teach one, reach one. I thought that was wonderful. I think Myth mentioned that. I think if you all can partner with us, and, you know, that's what we do here at TRAC and TAC, is, you know, all the things we do on the exhibits are free. Now, of course, if we do a workshop, we might have to charge because, you know, there's a little money when it comes to materials, but we try our best to bring, you know, some skills and crafts to people, you know, without a charge, and you know, supporting TAC, what we do. You know, in order for us to provide those, you know, free exhibits, we need your support through membership, and same as TRAC. So, you know, if anyone is asking about that, how we continue to provide, you know, the Quilting Sisters of Color or any of the exhibits that we bring to TRAC, that's how we do it, is, you know, the monetary support to bring those things out. So awesome. So thank you all. Are there any other questions, Chris, before we close out?
I did not see any, I believe. I think we're okay.
Okay, well, this ends our virtual talk. Again, ladies, thank you, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.